Bienvenue à notre panel de discussion de la Semaine de la Santé Mentale de la Défense. Good afternoon, everyone, and my name is John Forster. I'm the Deputy Minister of National Defense, and welcome to our annual Defense Team Mental Health Week panel discussion. The Defense Team is committed to building and sustaining a mentally healthy workplace where both civilian and military members feel safe and supported. Nous voulons que tous les se sentent à l'aise de rechercher de l'aide lorsqu'ils font face à des problèmes de santé mentale, éliminer les stigmatisations qui entourent la maladie mentale est de la plus haute importance. Today we have an excellent discussion panel assembled to continue our conversations about mental health in our workplace and more specifically about how we can live in the green. I'd like to introduce Gilles Moreau, Director General of Workplace Management in ADM HR Civ, who will be your moderator for the next hour. I hope you enjoy the discussion.
Merci, Mr. Foster. So today, we'll be talking with our panel about how they maintain their mental health and how they live in the green. So that's going to be the topic for today, and I will keep you on topic, rest assured, for the next hour. I'd like to welcome our two mental health co-champion, Senior Associate Deputy Minister Jody Thomas, and Jerry Ryan, our employee-level champion, as well as le colonel Tremblay, Directeur des langues officielles, et le colonel Gary O'Neill, Director of Health Services Delivery at Canadian Forces Health Services Group. Welcome. Vivre dans le vert signifie que vous êtes en bonne santé mentale, que vous avez des comportements sur le côté vert du continuum de santé mentale que vous voyez présentement à l'écran. On a day-to-day basis, how we feel can shift along the continuum. So it's important to check in with yourself and take appropriate action if you find that your mental well-being is suffering. Nous espérons que la discussion d'aujourd'hui vous aidera à en apprendre davantage sur l'importance de la santé mentale, incluant la vôtre. And remember, comments and questions are welcome on social media in both official language, dans les deux langues officielles. Envoyez-nous vos questions, vos commentaires, et on essaiera d'en rentrer quelques-uns dans la discussion d'aujourd'hui. We hope to hear from you, and we will add some of your questions to our live discussion. Alors, on débute. Panelists, would you like to share with us a little bit about your role and why mental health is important to you? Maybe,
Je peux commencer.
Thomas, tu veux commencer?
Oui, ça me dérange pas.
Parfait.
Vous vous êtes probablement posé la question pourquoi le directeur des langues officielles est ici comme invité comme panéliste. En fait, I am not an expert. I've been diagnosed with PTSD last year, 6 years after I came back from Republic Democratic of Congo, that I had spent a year over there. And like I said, I'm not an expert, but I'm pleased to be here today to share my experience. And I hope that it could help others to do the same thing, because it's really great, actually, when you relieve yourself from this weight that you wear as a person in uniform, and you believe that everybody's looking at you and is judging you, actually, but I know it's not the case, but it's just a perception that we have. And today, for me, it's really important to be here, and it's like a therapy. I mean, it's part of my therapy to be here and share my experiences.
Merci. Jerry, as the champion for the employee side.
And I appreciate, same as Stephen has said, the opportunity to be here and to say, I was really happy to be part of the technical committee with the public service, with the Treasury Board, to try and move forward the psychological standard for health and safety into that. My personal experiences with mental health, I guess I didn't really recognize that I wasn't in the green, that I was probably closer to the red when my wife was diagnosed terminal in 2012. Realized then that I had a problem with alcohol, and I had to deal with that issue in order to deal with the life issue I was facing. So between that time and 2013, today would have been our 33rd anniversary, that I had to get myself changed and came to recognize that living in the green is a challenge for every person, and I realize that so many members, so many people across the country are bringing to work their personal life experiences that change their moods, and they need to feel supported. And I think as we move forward in this initiative, that we're going to see more and more supports in the workplace, because the similarities between physical health support programs that we put in place in the workplaces and what we vision would be required in psychological health are very similar. So we have a lot to go, but being part of the initial start of this, when Jody and I signed the pledge for mental health in Halifax on Monday, I think a lot of the civilian side of the department got to see that we're moving forward, and we're really excited to see that we can, being the largest department of government, leverage practices that the military have already put in place. So I really can't wait to see what the future brings.
Good, thank you. Jody?
Thank you. I'm really honored to be here today, and I'm so pleased to be here with my co-panelists. I became interested in helping have the conversation about mental health in 2010 when my daughter's hockey coach's daughter died from suicide. She was 14 years old, and it was a silent suicide. There was no warning. And it really brought home for me the criticality of having difficult conversations with your children, with your colleagues, with friends, with coworkers, your spouse, your partner, about how they're feeling. And I truly believe that a healthy work environment means that we understand the impact of physical health issues, the same and equally mental health issues. And I don't think that we yet understand how to deal with mental health issues and have that conversation in the workplace with a colleague or an employee or even a manager who's feeling anxious or worried or concerned, or they're bringing problems from home to work, and it's affecting both their ability to work, their ability to live in the green, and then the work environment in its totality. And so my personal life has bled into my professional life, and having the conversation, as we say, do it for Darren, the charity I support, is so important. We seem to talk about everything else with our families and with our colleagues except for mental health, and we need to reduce that stigma so that we can have that conversation. Panels like this are a step in that direction.
Okay, thank you. Merci. Gary?
Thanks for the opportunity to be here today, and I'll mirror some of the comments that you said with stigma. Having joined the military in the late '80s and not being aware of any mental health programs and availability, I've seen how things have evolved over the years. From having gotten out of the military, gotten back in the 2000, and being in Petawawa, having 1 or 2 mental health workers, and then being back there last year and seeing that staff grow to 35, 40 people, I recognize that we're doing a lot better for having support systems available for our soldiers. And I think it's important for people to recognize that there's a stigma involved with mental health, and we're coming a long way within the military, and I think within the public service. But I think we still need to do a lot more, because people are still afraid to approach the care that they need with the support services that are available. And I know from a military perspective, we have many services to help people reduce stress, or help people deal with alcohol or gambling, or whatever illness is there. But people need to be made aware that they can approach these things without it impacting their day-to-day work life.
Okay, good. Thank you. Merci. So now, concretely, my first question would be, what do you do to actually live in the green and to try to remain in the green as much as possible? Alors, qu'est-ce que vous faites concrètement comme geste pour vivre dans le vert et y demeurer le plus souvent possible? Est-ce que does anybody want to give it a go as far as what they actually do?
I personally think physical fitness is important.
Okay.
I try and do things in the morning, go for a short run or do something just to clear my head. And it kind of gets me ready for the day, and it allows me to plan my day. So I think it's also important to have some structure. And in the military and in the civilian work environment, recognizing that there's going to be fires that come up throughout the day, and how you're going to deal with those and still maintain your priorities. So, doing some physical activity, taking breaks, recognizing that you can't work 12, 14-hour days. You need to take some breaks, mental, physical breaks, and having a program and some goals to follow throughout the day. There's some days I go home, it's like, I started 10 things today, and I don't think I actually completed one of them. So I find it helpful to write a couple things down in the morning that I'm going to complete these today, and at the end of the day, tick those off. So having some structure, I guess, in your work life as well.
So structure for you brings you the ability to stay into the green, and if you see a bunch of stuff piling up, it gives you that ability to kind of bring you back to the front end of the continuum as opposed to letting you slide over to the yellow or...
For sure. I mean, there's times where I recognize I'm sliding over to the yellow. That's when I need to get up, out of my office, go for a walk, chat with some of my coworkers. If there's something that's bothering me, maybe network with one of my peers on how I can overcome a problem. So having a network system in place as well, and recognizing when you're starting to slide out of the green into the yellow, orange, and so on.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else? Quelqu'un d'autre?
Et pour moi, la santé mentale, ou ce que moi, mon expérience à moi, je la relie beaucoup aux émotions. Moi, c'est tout à propos des émotions. C'est comment je vis mes émotions. Dans ma carrière, toute situation où j'avais à vivre des émotions plus négatives, par exemple, ben, je les fuyais. J'avais tendance à les fuir. Alors, fuir les situations. Donc, je pouvais anticiper les situations, puis m'organiser pour ne pas être dans ces situations-là, tellement ces émotions-là, je ne voulais pas les vivre, absolument pas les vivre. À partir du moment où, physiquement, avec le PTSD, mais avant le PTSD, il y a eu 6 ans, j'avais des gros troubles physiques que je n'étais pas capable d'expliquer, qu'un médecin n'était pas capable d'expliquer. Puis là, j'ai commencé à consulter des gens qui avaient des croyances différentes par rapport aux émotions, l'effet sur le corps. À partir du moment où je me suis accordé le droit de vivre ces émotions-là, puis donc quand je suis dans la douleur et que je sens là, que ça vient me chercher, c'est d'essayer de découvrir pourquoi je réagis aussi fortement à une critique, pourquoi je réagis si fortement parce qu'une voiture vient de me couper, pourquoi je réagis si fortement parce qu'un collègue a émis un commentaire. Ce commentaire-là est bien normal, mais moi, je me suis senti touché par ce commentaire-là. Alors, j'ai réalisé en faisant cet exercice-là que quand j'étais enfant, j'ai eu l'impression que mes parents ne m'ont jamais aimé. J'ai eu l'impression que je n'ai pas eu d'amour de mes parents. Alors, quand vous êtes un petit enfant, là, vous avez cette prise... En fait, inconsciemment, vous réalisez ça. Quand tu deviens adulte, là, c'est pas parti, là. Cette perception-là continue avec toi. And then what it does is this change your entire life. Because my entire life was built on trying to be recognized, to find love from the outside, from others. And I became a workaholic because, it was my only way to cope with my needs. So needs to be recognized and loved. And then my lack of confidence, and then anxiety, là, c'est des choses qui sont venues se rajouter. Puis là, à ce moment-là, dans la prise de conscience, je dis toujours, s'il y a quelque chose qu'on ne sait pas, on ne peut pas le guérir. C'est impossible de guérir quelque chose qu'on ne connaît pas. Alors, en allant dans mon passé, j'ai découvert les éléments qui m'affectaient. Et puis mon message aujourd'hui, c'est, entre autres, la conscience, la prise de conscience. When you make yourself aware of the situation, what causes you to react that way, you can start with tools, you can start healing yourself. And self-awareness for me, it's critical. It's really critical for, it's one of the ingredients actually for going through et rester dans le verre. Puis quand tu déroges du verre, quand tu réagis encore, avec le temps, ça s'atténue. Tu sais, les choses s'atténuent parce que tu es en mesure de trouver des moyens pour te parler, puis être plus conscient, plus présent par rapport à tes émotions, être plus proche de tes émotions. C'est beaucoup plus facile. Okay. Donc ça me permet vraiment de rester dans le verre.
Merci de ton partage. Puis, self-awareness, d'être vraiment conscient de se regarder, will help you in remaining in the green. So if you have a tendency to kind of go over to the yellow or
For me,
orange,
it's critical.
it's critical. Know your story, know your own life story, and it's your health. Look after it. Basically, is if I can sum that up. Okay, good.
Absolument.
Anybody else wants to try on to how they
Sure.
stay in the green, or
Not unlike what's already been said, I think self-awareness is a huge element of staying in the green because you have to know when you're shifting towards orange, yellow, red. I try to find humor in every day. You have to laugh. Our work is serious, especially in this department. The work we do is serious, it matters. It does add to the stress of daily life. And so being serious about work but still trying to find humor, I think, is really important. Eating properly, it has a huge impact. You have to be healthy within yourself to be healthy emotionally. Exercise, I say that I walk with the best listener in my family every day for an hour, and that's my dog. She listens. She doesn't give me advice. She doesn't tell me how to handle something. She just listens and agrees that I'm probably right in what I'm saying. So that helps me a lot. In the summer, kayaking, in the winter, skiing, things that clear your mind, bring some healthy endorphins into your body. It all really matters. And that mind-body connection is huge. Physical health and mental health are connected. And so taking care of yourself, but being self-aware, and so understanding when things are starting to impact you, really important. I often find that when I find I'm squinting all the time, I'm not really that's like my first physical sign. I can't sort of unsquint my face. It means that I'm getting wound up about something. And so you become aware of it and get up from your desk and go for a walk. Do something for a few minutes, take a break. You can't always do that in every work situation. I certainly understand that, but wherever you can, you need to know your own little triggers and take a step back.
thank you, Jerry.
Well, with me, I guess for a lot of years I didn't realize that I was out of the green, and I mentioned what happened in my life. So when I went to see my doctor, and she said, like, how are you dealing with everything that's going on in your life right now? And I said, well, I'm dealing with it because I have to, but I drink. And she said, well, this is the most depressing part of your life, and you're taking a depressant. It's never worked for anybody. It's not going to work for you, so you need to stop. So that was the first part of understanding in order to get back into the green, if that's where you're at, that you have to deal with that issue first. And then you can start to recognize that there's a lot of people around you that depend on you. And then when you have a job like I have where you represent people and you're basically dealing with labor relations issues every day, you're dealing only, you're trying to help people, but if you're not looking after yourself, you can't help anybody. So a lot of, sleeping, having the regular routines. I love to run long distance, so putting the music in and going for a couple hours really helps me on a Saturday or a Sunday. I became more involved in my community, something my wife always did. And I saw, when you have 200 people caroling in your driveway at Christmas, you see that when you give to community, it gives back to you in spades. And, that whole reliance that we're not in this alone. We need to open up and talk to other people. It really, with that being said, I'm lucky I have the EAP people in the basement of the building that I work in. So we work together to be able to, when we're all trying to do the right thing, compassion and empathy and words like that are key for every single person. So I think, when you're open to other people and you're open to have those kind of conversations, you'll open up yourself, and it's key to do that. It's the problems that happen to people if they don't feel they can talk to someone about it. That's really what we're trying to do today in the workplace, is say it's a safe place to talk. So,
Thank you. Good.
And if I can add to that, talking. And I like really when talking to your dog.
She's brilliant.
But thinking out loud, not thinking, but speaking out loud, it really helps you to, for me, you hear it differently. When you actually get this thing in your mind and you're in the spin and you're constantly thinking, when you actually talk to someone or a dog, it just gives a different perspective, because you hear your voice and you hear the words differently. And it has helped me to better understand. I also write my stories. I like to write it down. It's like, for me, je veux pas accumuler les émotions. Le cumul d'émotions m'a fait juste du mal, en tout cas, m'a fait beaucoup de mal. Là, c'est important de m'assurer que je garde rien de ça. Bon, le sport, oui, c'est des façons, mais pour moi, l'écriture, c'est aussi une façon, ou de parler avec quelqu'un, puis je ne demande pas un commentaire, ou je demande juste une oreille, fais juste m'écouter, et là, je me permets de me vider, ça me fait du bien. Puis l'écriture, c'était une autre façon aussi que j'ai trouvé c'est une thérapie finalement, parce qu'en relisant mes textes, en relisant ce que j'écris, ah, cette journée-là, je me sentais comme ça. Ah, cette journée-là, je me sentais comme ça. Je suis capable de tisser des liens, puis à ce moment-là, trouver des façons là, de rectifier la chose.
Parfait.
Donc, ça m'aide beaucoup quand je reviens au travail le lendemain ou quand je suis en contact avec des gens, bien, d'être plus alerte, plus avec eux et moins pogné dans ma tête, dans mon spin, dans mes émotions. Alors, c'est une autre façon, moi, que j'ai trouvé aussi de...
Merci. Merci. Donc, we're hearing sports. We're hearing, talking about it, writing, arts, maybe other ways of, staying in the green. So, like, you don't have to be an Ironman in order to be, in the green and healthy and all this stuff. You can do all kinds of different things to kind of move away from sometimes the stuff that's going on in between our ears and vacating that. So how does the workplace affect your mental health?
Well, it has a dual role. We all, people have to work because they have to earn an income. So there's a pressure to go to work and there's a pressure at work. At the same time, work can be very fulfilling and it can be a positive influence on your mental health. You're in a job that you like where you feel you're contributing. You have coworkers you like. You work for somebody you like. And that you do well with, and you feel like what you are contributing to society has a positive effect. That's a really good thing for staying in the green and for your mental health. However, sometimes the work is very difficult. You don't get along with colleagues. You feel pressure to go to work when you've got family things at home, and that's when it slides into other colors, and you start to have to talk about work-life balance, or you have to have a conversation with a boss about, I have a pressure at home I need to deal with. And that's why having very open conversations about mental health, having good lines of communication within the workplace are really critical. We're here to work. We have to work a certain amount of time. We have to do our jobs. We all understand that everybody has a life outside of work and they have pressures outside of work. And our job isn't to judge those pressures, it's to work with your employees or work with your manager to ensure that you can do both and reduce a level of tension that often occurs in the workplace about how do you do both. Young parents with young kids, the rules about getting home to daycare, how are you flexible? How do we use the tools in 2017 that are available in the workplace in order to maximize output from employees and maintain that healthy balance? We want in the workplace people with interests outside of work. It makes them better employees. It makes for a more fulfilling workplace. It makes for a healthier workplace. Finding that balance and being able to have a conversation about it, I think, is really important.
I think if I could just add on to that comment about work-life balance, we've used that statement for many years, and I don't think we truly appreciate it. And you see some of your supervisors putting in very long days, and I guess the understanding is that as an employee within that section, you're kind of expected to do the same. And there are things we can do as supervisors to truly work on that work-life balance, because sometimes it's just kind of they're words and we don't actually live by them, and we need to be, I think, somewhat flexible and understand that people have lives outside of their work, working on things like working from home and being more flexible in where people can do their work, because I don't think we really pay attention to what that means. You see people working these long days and they don't truly live by that statement.
Okay, so setting the example at the top, as far as the work-life balance would be something that you would say
people
would have impact.
Yes, people spend a lot of their time at work, and they need to feel, they get up in the morning, they need to be positive and be in a positive mindset before they go in. Otherwise, they're not going to be productive. And if they're compromising other parts of their life, it's going to end in failure or negative results.
Good.
Et si je peux si je peux ajouter là-dessus, on peut faire beaucoup mieux. Je veux dire, si je prends mon exemple personnel, là, je travaillais, tantôt je l'ai dit, là, j'étais un workaholic, donc je travaillais constamment. Je n'étais pas vraiment attentif. Je n'avais pas vraiment d'oreille. Tout ce que j'étais concerné, c'est de nourrir mes besoins à moi. Mes besoins étaient de, comme je disais tantôt, d'aller chercher une certaine forme de reconnaissance. Alors, on a un milieu, et je dis ça avec mon expérience, on a un milieu qui, avec le tempo opérationnel qu'on a, qui laisse pas beaucoup de place à ce qu'on soit plus attentif puis qu'on commence à prendre, qu'on prenne soin mieux de notre monde. En faisant ma thérapie, je veux dire, en réalisant et avec ce cheminement-là des dernières années, j'ai complètement changé ma façon de travailler. J'ai complètement changé ma façon aussi de gérer, de diriger les personnes. Je pense qu'aujourd'hui, je suis un meilleur leader, je suis un meilleur chef à diriger les personnes. Et le personnel civil, entre autres, dans mon équipe, qui ont naturellement, ils partagent plus leurs émotions que les militaires qui sont plus réservés parce que ce n'est pas quelque chose qu'on est habitué de faire, en tout cas certainement pas dans les endroits où je suis allé, bien, ils m'ont permis de devenir une meilleure personne parce qu'en ayant à vivre and to cope with these discussions about emotions and about life is slightly different and public service, no, you cannot really. There's no obligations, there's no mandatory. Where the military, you can do that. So it's a different way to approach things. So we can do a lot better to accommodate people at the workplace. And this is something, and again, for me, it's self-awareness. If we don't take the time, and leadership, I mean, leadership for me is really strong. But leadership is like we have forgotten one aspect of leadership. We're really strong in the military for sure, in ops and dealing with ops, and we're outstanding, I guess, in doing so. But this aspect of taking care of people, this is also part of leadership. And this is not just in the military, I know, but that we need maybe to get better at it.
And it's not isolated to the military.
No.
It's in all walks of life. I think that leaders need to look after the fact that, they're first of all human beings, and they're managing and they're leading human beings. And recognize yourself where you're at, and recognize the impact that you may have. You're talking about your own situation, the impact that you perhaps had on your team if you're working 12, 14 hours to fill your need.
And really demanding on the people.
And everything is towards you as opposed to looking after, as a leader. We've got to make sure that we have the leaders in the organization on both sides, military and civilian, that are conscious of their own self and the impact that they're having on the workplace. Jerry, anything that your workplace brings to you?
As an employee and an employee rep, I think, when we worked on the vision with the public service, with the Treasury Board, we looked and said, the last line says it's the responsibility of everybody in the workplace. So I guess what that means is that when you come to work and you're stressing, you feel you have issues, in this department we have an occupational fitness assessment form, and we're working towards dealing more like people have no problem putting their hand up and saying they have a physical injury, they're feeling that there's something wrong, it's not working. They need to realize then that you just need to see your doctor. And the request for an accommodation forms that we have, the reply to the request, that the employer is open to modifying your workplace in order to be allowed to come to work. Your personal diagnosis and treatment is your own business between you and your doctor. There's no requirement for the employer to know. What the employer needs to know is what your limitations are. And rather than what you can't do, it's what can you do. So as a representative of an employee that comes to me and says, I'm under a lot of stress. Well, maybe you can't attend the meetings, but you can take them secretarially and respond with an email. If that's the issue you need at that time. But it's really one of those things, again, that you have to put your hand up. You have to say, I need to be accommodated and this is the issue. So, in that way, we're going to allow people to stay at work rather than have to worry about the return to work. Because when you're forced to, and you keep presenting yourself and you keep coming in because you don't want to admit that there potentially is something wrong. I mean, we have to open up the fact that the employee, the person, has to go and speak to their medical professional and see what that comes back. And with Health Canada working with us on our committee, we're looking to write those things better, looking at psychological demands analysis for the positions that people are in. So then you're looking at your job and you can see what you can do the same way we treat physical illness or injury today.
Jody?
And I think that sort of approach is important, even if you're not feeling ill, even if you're not feeling stressed. I think we really have to look at our lives and understand the job that suits your life at the moment you're in it. So when I had 2 little kids at home, a husband at sea with the Navy, one had a chronic illness, I wasn't applying for promotions. I was applying for jobs that I could do in the hours I had available, because I didn't think the workplace had to bend for me. I couldn't work till 8, 9 at night, as I can now if I need to, and I certainly don't every day. But there have been times in my career where, yeah, work's been kind of 24/7. Couldn't do it when my children were younger, couldn't do it at certain periods in their lives because of my son's illness. I didn't expect the employer to have to accommodate me. I found jobs that would allow me to work in the hours I had available, and if my son was sick, I took work home, and my employer was very good about that because they knew I was dependable when he wasn't sick. So understanding what your needs are and ensuring that you find a job and a relationship with your employer that allows you to contribute, but that you're actually responsible about what you can contribute and the time you have to give, I think is really important. It's a difficult subject to talk about, but if I used to tell people in my former department, I was at the Coast Guard, if you're 2 little kids at home or 3 little kids at home or whatever don't allow you to come in the middle of the night to have an operational job, then that's not the job you should be applying for. We have other jobs where your skill set and your experience and your enthusiasm and your passion for the Coast Guard can absolutely be of benefit, but that job where you need to be 24/7 isn't the one for you right now. And we have to be responsible about that within ourselves, and that helps you stay in the green. It doesn't give you extra stress.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and on that point, I mean, we do that today. And within the department, when people come back in the return to work program, you can do a modified job for a period of time until you're prepared to go back to your substantive position. And that, back to Jody's point, is that if that's a temporary condition that doesn't allow you to do that, and then we can look at that. But it's still incumbent on the person to say, I need help, I have an issue. And whether you're talking to a coworker, you're talking to your manager, your supervisor, it's really, once people start to tear the barriers down and realize that we're all working together, whether your workplace is 10 people or 1,000 people like where I work every day, the dynamics of that place is we're all trying to, working in the dockyard, trying to put the ships in subs to sea, we have the same goal. But that day you may not be the person that can work that extra time, as Jody referenced, and that. So you need to take yourself off those lists and say, later on I'll be able to do that, but not right now. And the employer will allow that to happen, and that's something we want to see more of, because if you push yourself further and further when you're in the yellow, when you're moving towards the orange, and you're going to hit the red if you don't let up, and that's people push themselves too hard, expecting or not even realizing that they are struggling, and a lot of it is. It's incumbent. You start to see, the work performance go down, the attendance go down. Then the union's involved with the employer, and it all, we end up maybe in a grievance situation that we don't need to be in, because it never came out at the start that there was an issue that was affecting the person. And that's really what we want to do today is deal with that, to avoid the long-term absences and the potential, losing your position.
So let's. Did you want to add something, Gary? Or?
No.
That's a nice link into the third question that I have is, what mental health resources are you using within the organization or that you're accessing?
Moi, je veux juste finir avec le...
Oui, OK. Brièvement, oui, OK.
Oui, brièvement, c'est juste parce que moi, j'avais tendance à blâmer. C'est blâmer le système. Et le système me doit ça, le système me doit ça. Pour réaliser que, tu veux dire, tu gagnes rien à blâmer. Il n'y a rien, c'est juste de la négativité. Donc, il n'y a aucun avancement à vouloir dénoncer, juste dénoncer, j'ai dénoncé. Et mon message ici, c'est, I guess if you want things to change, you need to start changing yourself. I mean, it applies in everything in our lives. It's just not with mental health, but if you want something to change in your life, if you want people to change their behavior with you or at work, you need to start by changing yourself. Just to stop blaming people is a change to start with. Et pour moi, ça a fait une énorme différence de commencer à partager, bon, moi c'est ça que j'ai fait, On a parlé du partage, mais commencer à partager. Aller dans mes vulnérabilités aussi, partager mes vulnérabilités. Donc, j'ai tranquillement, pas vite, pour voir comment les personnes réagissaient. Et ça m'a permis énormément de faire des petits gains, mais aussi sensibiliser les gens autour de moi. S'ils ne savent pas que tu réagis comme ça, s'ils ne savent pas que tu es pogné dans tes émotions ou tu es pogné dans ta tête parce que, mais ils ne peuvent rien faire pour toi. Puis, words matter. I mean, words can have a big effect, and suffering in silence is nothing worse than that. And it's terrible, actually. But when you say things, if people don't know that it will affect you, they will keep saying it. Unless you say, hey, I'm sorry, this is affecting me, please.
And on that note, Jody, I think at one of the meetings I attended with you a couple of weeks ago, you talked about the lexicon that we use, the words that we use, and the importance. Did you want to maybe expand on that a little bit?
Well, I think that the words we used when we're talking to employees, when we're talking to colleagues, and when we're talking about mental health, we have to stop tiptoeing around them. This stigma around mental health, instead of saying to somebody, you're feeling anxiety today, oh, you have a cold? It's the same thing. Two employees, two different situations, but it's identical. One we hesitate and we have struggled with, and the other we're pretty direct with. You have a cold, go home. You need to take care of yourself. You're feeling anxious, you're feeling depressed, you need to go see your doctor. Go home, go take care of yourself. We don't do that. And we tend to we judge and we wonder if somebody's trying something on with us or faking. And we have to move away from that. We have to understand that when we talk about somebody about anxiety, depression, moving towards those conditions, anger that are yellow, orange, and red, we have to have very, very open conversations. The same way we don't whisper when we talk to somebody about they have cancer, we talk to them about it. We whisper when we talk about somebody's depression. No, depression is a physical illness that has a emotional manifestation. It's just what it is. The cause of it is irrelevant. What we need to worry about is supporting the employee and ensuring that they get the help the same way you do with somebody comes to work with the flu. And so language and direct language and open language and non-stigmatized language is critical to sort of cracking this nut in the workplace.
Good.
If I can add to that, I think people are concerned about repercussions. I know certainly in the military, people are concerned about coming forward and seeking the help they need. And I think, as supervisors, the onus is on us to enable people to reach those services. And I think you're coming to that in the next question about what types of services are there. But for people to realize that they can access some of these services, get the treatment that they need, whether it's depression or issues with anxiety or whatnot, and still come back to work and be a functioning member before they had this illness or this issue. So again, I still think there's that stigma, and people are still somewhat resistant because they're worried about the long-term repercussion to their careers.
I do think, though, it's improving, and I do think that people, the more conversations we have about it, the better. My friends whose child died from suicide, they couldn't even say the word suicide, and yet it had happened in their family. People don't commit suicide. They die. And so even the language that is a bit pejorative, we apply that on the mental health side of things, we don't on the physical health side. And so understanding that it's illness, that we do need to be open about it, that there shouldn't be, and we're moving towards, I think, a society where there aren't repercussions, is really important. And I think that what the workplace has to work towards, and what this effort to address mental health in the public service and in the Canadian Armed Forces, what it does is it gives people the space to talk about and come forward and say, I'm suffering, but then we have to have that other side. So how do you support somebody while they're ill and as they return to work so that they aren't marked or stigmatized? We're not as good on that second half. So we'll get there. We're getting there on the front half of it. We've got work to do on the back half of it. But you have to be able to have the open conversation in order to have the solutions. So It's a circle, and we're working on that entire circle. And we've got great resources in the department, and I think people within this department will see more and more effort on that circle of care, identifying a problem, helping somebody through the illness, and then returning them back to work.
Good. Thank you. Jerry?
Well, and as I said earlier, the workplace is a population of whoever you work with. So if there's one person with a mental health issue, or just the workplace is a negative workplace, a lot of times that's another part of this initiative. When you get away from the individual, you get into what the workplace is like. And terms like poison work environments and stuff are out there where people feel that they need to get another job to get away from the negative influences of their workplaces. So what we have to do there is put tools in place to allow people to resolve those type of conflicts. So the alternate dispute resolution, internal conflict resolution groups that are there, the EAP people to talk to about those issues, or speaking to your union rep and having them come and try and talk to the other members of the workplace that are causing. If you're carrying a heavy burden at a certain period of time, your tolerance for other people that are coming in a bad mood all the time and affecting the people around them, a lot of times they're not even aware they're doing that. So just coming forward, speaking up, and saying either to anyone in that workplace that something needs to be done about this is how I feel right now. I think we can move this a long way, because we're in the past, it was looked at, the unions weren't recognized as employee representatives, which is I like to use that a lot more, because we are the voice of the employees. So a lot of times we know about things that are going on amongst our own members, and it's not evident to the employer. Mm-hmm. So we need to work on that ourselves. And I go back to the individual taking ownership of themselves and of problems in their workplace. Bring them forward and we'll resolve them. Because leaving it there and going away means that someone else is walking into that and not realizing, oh my God, I got a great job, but then I come in and this is a terrible place to work. So the initiative for the psychological standard for health and safety, when we bring that in, which we've adopted, but now the departments are coming, and this department is leading the way, in my opinion, to integrate that into what that means, how we're going to change that, that's what's to come. So we need to encourage people, to talk about what's going on in their workplace, and you might find out that this person is struggling and that's why they're acting the way, or they don't have to do things that you have to do, and you have to pick up the slack for a period of time. We don't have a problem doing that when you see a physically injured coworker, right. But I think what we don't do today is we recognize when someone's struggling with mental health issues, whether they're, my mother is living in our basement and has Alzheimer's, and we have a very serious issue right now that we have to deal with. Those are the type of things that people don't want to talk about because they don't feel comfortable that the workplace is going to recognize that. And today we do. Mm-hmm. So,
okay. On the resources, is there one resource that you say, you know what, like this is a great resource that I know is available that you would want to make the promotion of?
For me, just Bill, Let's Talk. I mean, it's this one day, I use it for discussion. I use it for having the discussion with my staff, and often these subjects that I'm not too keen at addressing, and I know there's resources too that you can have people that are fully qualified to discuss some of the subject, and I don't know all of them, but I guess this is where on the military and on the civilian side, integration, working together, because there's great facilities on the civilian side that I know of, people fully qualified to discuss things that I'm not really comfortable to discuss as a military person.
Okay, good.
I think we have a lot of good resources within health services, whether it's mental health or just seeing your healthcare provider. There's a myriad of wellness programs. We talked about, some of the physical and eating right. I think you mentioned that. So there's nutrition programs and physical activities. For myself, I think it's, you don't isolate yourself. Get up out of your house in the evening, go do something physical. And I know in the military we have some great facilities that we can access, whether it's a sports program or a recreation or leisure activity. I think people need to tap into those within their communities and create a social network as well to overcome any issues they have when they're starting to slide out of the green.
Yeah. So not just resources for when you're in the orange and red, but a lot of resources to stay in the green and be active in the green, so that you can like prevent yourself from sliding down that continuum and stuff.
I mean, we definitely have programs, that address wellness, addictions, alcohol and gambling. I think I mentioned those earlier. And we have 4 main programs within health services that people can access. But there's things outside of those as well that people can deal with when they're not in maybe the red zone, but they see themselves slipping into the yellow-orange, that they can deal with themselves and have a coping strategy day to day.
Okay.
I think certainly the EAP program, the Employee Assistance Program, it can provide immediate assistance in not a crisis, only a crisis situation, but when somebody needs assistance. And I used it in my former department. I've not been here very long, so I haven't had to here with employees, but I certainly did use EAP resources in my previous department with employees. Very responsive, very helpful to bridge a moment when you need assistance to when you can get to your primary care physician or get referred for other care. And I think it's a really, really important program. So that's for somebody who's feeling out of the green. I think that just like you go to the gym or you go to the dentist to keep up your physical health, nobody's penalized for going to the dentist and making sure that they don't have any cavities and they get their teeth cleaned twice a year. Using resources for your emotional health, I think, really important as well, and it becomes a preventative thing. So participating in events like Bell Let's Talk Day. Within the city of Ottawa, and it's true in every major city in every province across the country, the Royal Ottawa website has fantastic resources about helping you maintain your mental health and what to do when you're not feeling well. Parents feel the strain of their children, and there's more and more awareness now of youth mental health and the strain and pressures children are feeling, especially in our social media world where children are exposed to so much. So there's great resources out there to help parents, because that affects their ability to come to work. And so the one I support, Do It for Darren, but there's many others that can give you tips on how to talk to your children, how to help your children with their own mental health. That impacts your mental health. It obviously does. That link is direct. And so the Royal Ottawa, the City of Ottawa, the Province of Ontario, every province across the country, they've put increased focus on mental health and getting resources out to people. And so you can use social media and the availability of information on the internet in a positive manner to help you research information. And I think going to hospital sites, going to the provincial sites, really, really positive in terms of staying healthy. EAP, and certainly there are crisis lines that are available, 1-800 lines to give you assistance if you need it in immediate. And we're here as a management team also to help.
Good. Jerry?
Yeah, well, I guess a lot of it, is when you look at individual mental health, going to see psychologists and psychiatrists and being referred through your doctor, so when you feel you're in crisis. But when you're in all your workplaces that you're in, like I mentioned earlier with the compassion, empathy, those type of terminologies, when you come to work and you ask people how they're doing, having that conversation and interaction with your coworkers and the people you work with. I mean, in D&D, we are a big team. We're a very big team. But we're all serving the country, as all the public service is, and that's really the key to it all is realizing that we're all here, we're all trying to contribute. Everyone in the country is trying to contribute to society, and so when you're in trouble, you need to seek the help that you need. But I mean, now as we're looking going forward, we've created a center of expertise with the Treasury Board website, where there'll be a central repository for programs to assist all the different departments and organizations moving forward to implement the standard for psychological health and safety. I think that's really going to be a landmark part. And hopefully in the future, we're going to see changes like, I've mentioned this before, and I see that, it's happening more and more, where maybe the MRI will do for mental health what the X-ray did for physical health. That will actually be able to, people can validate their illness or injury with that, and that'll help them come to terms to know when they're better and know that they're back. And that whole stigma, that if I come forward and say I'm suffering from depression, that'll affect me forever. We need to understand that that's not actually true. It may be a condition that's there, but you're going to have very good days. And the more you reach out and the more we get these programs in place, the better the organization will be. But right now, having that EAP line, having the people that you work with to talk to, that's really the critical part of it, I think, is that people talk. When you mentioned Bell Let's Talk, well, that's exactly what it is. That's what they did. They're encouraging people that if you're experiencing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, it is always better to talk about it, because when you do that, you allow other people to say, well, my dad, my brother, my mother, I went to see a psychologist with what I was dealing with. And at the time I felt, well, I probably don't need this. But when I went there and realized how much that changed my outlook and my understanding of what I was doing, a lot of times we feel we're alone, we're really not. There's so many people going through so much that we're all trying to contribute, but at the same time, when we can't, then we will be helped.
Good. Good.
Yeah, and the help is there. I mean, same thing with my experience with psychologists and avec des thérapeutes, c'était génial. Et tous ceux qui sont réticents, il faut vivre l'expérience. Puis c'est pas parce que vous avez vécu une mauvaise expérience, par exemple, parce que ça peut arriver, que le thérapeute ou la personne qui soit en avant de vous, ça ne fonctionne pas tellement bien dans la discussion, ben, il faut aller plus loin. Il faut demander quelqu'un d'autre parce qu'il y a d'autres ressources disponibles. Et il faut persévérer parce que des fois, ça ne prend pas grand-chose pour nous isoler. Et l'isolation, ben, on va dans le rouge, puis là, ben, on perd le contrôle. Alors, non, il faut encourager les gens à
Donc,
consulter.
EAP, l'aide aux employés, on a les numéros de téléphone à l'écran, autant pour les employés civils que pour les militaires. Je sais que on the civilian side, when you call that number, you can also get assistance for managers to come and help a manager having a difficult discussion with an employee that has a problem or something like that, and you don't know how. You can be coached by them. They offer that service. They also offer services where, you can have an SOS contract where they've got a resource that will come on site to talk to a group of your employees if you're living through, there's something that happened, either in the workplace or outside the workplace, but it's impacting the workplace. They have those services that are available, and they're very, very, very responsive. Ils sont très à la fine pointe là, de venir faire des interventions ciblées dans les ministères. Donc, c'est quelque chose qu'on encourage les gens. I don't think we got any questions from the Facebook, from social media or Twitter. However, is there anything that you want to say as we conclude this discussion? Gary?
Again, thanks for the opportunity. I've participated in some of these events in the past. I think Bell Let's Talk was mentioned, and I saw a couple people speak last year. There was a gentleman, I wish I could remember his name, but he played with Great Big Sea, and he told his story of what he'd gone through with addictions and how he'd come up with some of the coping mechanisms. And it was moving, and I couldn't believe some of the people that got up after he spoke to talk about their story, and hopefully they got the help they need. And I hope some of these venues, whether today or in the future, help other people to come forward and get the help that they need. Thanks.
Merci.
That's interesting because we're working with him, Sean McCann, on Guitars for Vets.
Okay,
and so stand by for some news on that. He's very, very passionate about using music to help veterans in particular, but people recover from mental health illnesses and challenges. And he talks about how his guitar, which has holes in it, he's used it for so long, what became his only friend, and music became his friend. And so we've got some news to come out on that front over the next couple of weeks, but it will be a hugely
So using the arts,
using the arts. It's not just sports.
Physical,
It's
everything.
music. It's books. It's painting. It's home renovations. My husband must be very healthy because we're renovating our house. It's anything that gives you a release and helps you find a bit of yourself again. And so it doesn't matter what it is, it's what works for you, and I think it's critically important. My comments about sessions like this are, we have to do more of them. We have to talk about this. We have to encourage people to feel that they will not be stigmatized if they talk about with their colleagues or their managers and their supervisors their challenges. We treat physical health problems and mental health problems equally in the workplace. And that's that continuum, that circle of I've got a problem, I'm getting help, I'm coming back to work has to be the same whether you're suffering from a mental health challenge or a physical health challenge. And it's about action, it's about words, but it's equally about actions. And so we have to equip managers and supervisors. They know what to do if somebody comes in and says, I can't lift something in your building today because I've hurt my back. We need to have the same, I can't work today, I'm feeling ill. Well, what is it? How do we get you through it? It's really important. It's about having a workplace that cares and is healthy in and of itself. But I think we're on a good path.
Good, thank you. Jerry?
Well, the one thing that I want to keep repeating as much as I can is that this belongs to everyone. And that's really what we need to have people do is come forward and be a champion, step up. I mean, I'm just a regular worker that, electrician by trade, but this mental health movement to go forward to discuss these issues, like when I was suffering in silence in my own with an addiction issue that I wasn't dealing with and didn't even realize that I was as far along as I was till personal tragedy hit. That really becomes then that, you have a responsibility to contribute to work the same as everyone does. You come in, volunteering to be in a social committee and involving yourself in your workplace and getting to know the people around you and taking that empathy and compassion that you bring to work and helping, to improve the workplace. Everyone can do that. So I'm hoping, I know the unions are hoping in the future that our stewards in the health and safety field recognize that this is something that take the training that's going to be offered. But as I said, this is a new adopted standard. It was only created by Canadian Mental Health and CSA in 2013. But as the psychological standard moves across the country, workplaces across the country will change. And hopefully, and we know it will, the public service will lead the way. That's what we want to see happen.
Good, thank you.
J'ai expérimenté beaucoup de négativité dans ma carrière. Et lorsqu'on est atteint d'une maladie où on a un déconfort, quelque chose qui nous rend inconfortable, on a tendance à être négatif. Alors, la négativité, ça règle rien. Et parce que je pense qu'on est empreint beaucoup de négativité, qu'on voit la négativité, mais aujourd'hui, j'ai une image complètement différente de ce que je percevais avant, dans le sens que je vois vraiment des initiatives. Ce que j'entends à la Défense nationale, ici au quartier-général, il y a des choses extraordinaires qui sont en branle. Il y a des programmes, quand on parle de changement de culture, le mot compassion que Jerry a répété à plusieurs reprises, je n'entendais pas ça avant, certainement pas dans le militaire. Parler d'amour, s'aimer soi-même, se ressentir de la compassion. People first, mission always. From the CDS, for instance, people first. I mean, I have not heard that in my entire career.
And he is the CDS.
He is the CDS. So,
Exactly.
we're talking about here 33 years before I could hear that. Now, of course, there's a lot of work to do to be able to cope with what it means. But a whole bunch of initiatives that are on the street, that are moving forward pour nous aider justement à atteindre ce but-là, c'est extraordinaire. Alors, je pense que chacun d'entre nous, comme Gary le mentionnait, Jerry, je me mêle, il faut, on a tout on a tout un rôle à jouer. Et le rôle, c'est vraiment de s'assurer que Si on veut que les choses changent, ben, il faut changer nous autres mêmes. Donc, il faut arrêter de critiquer, puis peut-être qu'il faut percevoir les choses différemment. Puis à ce moment-là, on va avoir un effet sur notre entourage. Puis par défaut, l'entourage va avoir un effet. Puis comme ça, on peut améliorer tout le monde. Mais si on s'apitoie sur notre sort puis on joue la victime, on arrive à nulle part. Donc, d'apprendre à mieux se connaître, et moi je reviens là-dessus sur mon mot d'entrée, d'apprendre à mieux se connaître, qui on est, comment on réagit, comment on gère nos émotions, ça peut vous énormément vous sortir de votre situation, peu importe la situation, et vous pouvez mieux être avec vous-même.
Merci. Thank you very much. So what I take away from all of this, basically we're talking about health. And health has many factors in it, whether it be physical, mental, financial, a total health approach into our lives. And we are the ones that own it. We are responsible for it. We are part of the solution. So if you want to affect change, lead that change yourself, and you will be part of it and you will have impact. Alors, je vous remercie beaucoup, membres du panel. J'aimerais remercier aussi les gens qui nous ont suivis sur les médias sociaux. Thank you very much for listening, and be part of that change, and do lead in your workplace the change that you want to see happen within the organization. Merci beaucoup à tout le monde. N'oubliez pas les numéros 1-800 qui sont à l'écran pour les programmes d'aide, autant pour les employés civils que pour les militaires. So both programs for the civilians and military. Thank you. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.